The Riverside Manor ballroom smelled like money, fresh lilies, champagne, and that specific scent of wealth that comes from truffle oil and quiet confidence. 200 guests mingled under crystal chandeliers I'd selected personally 3 months ago. Dad stood at the center of attention in his custom tuxedo, holding court like the successful commercial real estate broker he'd been for 35 years. I stood near the back in my navy dress, the one I'd bought specifically for this night. Simple. Professional. Forgettable, according to my mother's assessment 2 hours earlier. The speaking order is finalized, Dad had told me that morning over coffee. Marcus speaks first about the business. Then Amanda about the family legacy. Then your cousins about my mentorship. We don't need everyone speaking, Sarah. It gets tedious. Marcus, my older brother, ran the satellite office Dad had opened for him in Austin. Amanda, my younger sister, managed social media for the brokerage, a position created specifically for her after college. Both of them lived in properties Dad owned, drove cars from the company fleet, took vacations charged to business development. I lived in a one-bedroom apartment in the Arts District and drove a paid-off Civic. In my family's narrative, this made me the failure. 5 minutes until speeches, the event coordinator announced, her voice cutting through the cocktail hour buzz. I watched Dad straighten his tie, saw Marcus already holding the microphone, noticed Amanda reviewing note cards. The speaking order had never included my name. But I'd assumed, stupidly apparently, that someone would at least acknowledge my presence. Ask me to say a few words. Include me in the toast. Instead, Dad walked to the microphone and tapped it twice. Thank you all for celebrating 6 decades of life with me tonight, he began, his broker's voice filling the room with practiced warmth. Before dinner is served, I want to hear from the people who've made my success meaningful. My successful children who've taken what I've built and made it even better. He gestured to Marcus. My son who's grown our Austin portfolio to 15 properties in just 4 years. Applause rippled through the crowd. Marcus stepped forward, grinning. Actually, Dad, before I start, Marcus glanced around the room with theatrical confusion. Sarah, where are you? I raised my hand slightly from my position near the kitchen entrance. There she is, Marcus said, his voice dripping with brotherly affection that made my jaw tighten. Sarah, we appreciate you coming tonight, but the family speeches are for people actively contributing to the Rodriguez legacy. You understand, right? No offense, but we need to keep this focused on actual achievements. Laughter scattered through the room, not cruel laughter, but the knowing chuckles of people who understood the family dynamic. Poor Sarah. The artsy one. The disappointment. Mom nodded from her seat at the head table. It's nothing personal, sweetheart. We just want to highlight success stories tonight. Amanda leaned into her microphone from her seat. Maybe next year, Sarah. When you've actually accomplished something worth mentioning. More laughter. Champagne glasses clinked. Someone near the bar made a joke I couldn't quite hear. I stood there, feeling the familiar weight of family dismissal settle over my shoulders like a lead blanket. This was the pattern. This was always the pattern. I showed up, I tried to be present, I attempted to participate, and they found new ways to exclude me while making it seem reasonable. Logical. Justified. The thing about being systematically underestimated is that it teaches you patience. And observation. And the strategic value of silence. I caught the eye of Jennifer Morrison, the event coordinator from Riverside Manor Events. She stood near the service entrance, tablet in hand, managing the evening's flow with military precision. I'd worked with her for 3 months planning every detail of this party, from the specific champagne, Veuve Clicquot, Dad's favorite, to the timing of the photo montage, after dinner, before cake, to the exact color of the napkin rings, gold, not silver. I walked toward her slowly, keeping my face neutral. The conversations around me continued, background noise about interest rates and property values and someone's timeshare in Cabo. Ms. Rodriguez, Jennifer said quietly as I approached. Her expression was carefully professional, but I saw the flicker of concern in her eyes. She'd heard everything. Is everything all right? I need to review the payment details, I said, my voice low and even. Jennifer's fingers moved across her tablet with practiced efficiency. She pulled up the contract file, turned the screen toward me. Your payment of $12,000 cleared yesterday at 2:47 p.m. Venue rental, catering for 200 guests, premium bar package, floral arrangements, audiovisual setup and coordination services. Everything is confirmed and in progress. The words carried across the suddenly quieter room. Marcus had been mid-sentence, something about his fourth quarter closings, when his voice faltered. The microphone picked up his sharp intake of breath. "Wait," he said. "What payment?" Jennifer looked up from her tablet, her professional mask firmly in place. "Miss Sarah Rodriguez contracted our services in October for tonight's event. Full payment processed yesterday from her business account." Dad's face went through several distinct color changes. Confusion, then red, then an alarming shade of pale that made me briefly worry about his blood pressure. "Business account?" Mom's voice came from the head table, sharp and brittle as breaking glass. I turned to face the room. 200 faces stared back at me. "Rodriguez Property Investments," I said calmly. "My portfolio management company. We specialize in commercial real estate acquisition and renovation in emerging urban districts." The silence that followed had texture, thick and suffocating. "You don't have a company," Amanda said, her voice rising. "You work at that coffee shop. That artsy place with the weird paintings." "I own that coffee shop," I corrected. "Revive Coffee Collective. It's one of 12 properties in my portfolio. The cafe occupies the ground floor of a building I purchased and renovated in 2019. The upper 3 floors are luxury apartments with a 97% occupancy rate." Marcus still held the microphone, but he'd lowered it slightly. His mouth opened and closed without sound. Jennifer stepped forward, her tablet now facing the room. "Ms. Rodriguez has been our primary client liaison for this entire event. She selected every vendor, approved all menu choices, and personally designed the evening schedule. The contract and all correspondence have been with her directly." "That's impossible," Dad said, finding his voice. It came out strained, nothing like his usual commanding broker's tone. "Sarah doesn't have 12 properties. She doesn't have that kind of capital. She works in a cafe." "I worked in a cafe," I said. Past tense. 10 years ago, while completing my real estate license and saving capital. I bought my first property, a distressed triplex, 7 years ago. Renovated it myself mostly. Learned construction management, plumbing, electrical work, municipal code. Refinanced after 18 months, used the equity to purchase property number 2. I pulled out my phone, opened my property management app. The dashboard showed 12 thumbnail images. Buildings scattered across the Arts District, the Warehouse District, and 3 in the rapidly developing East Side. Current portfolio value is approximately $8.4 million, I continued, my voice steady and factual. Annual gross income is $647,000 from commercial and residential leases. I manage everything through my LLC. No family involvement. No family capital. No family connections. Jennifer cleared her throat gently. "If I may add, Ms. Rodriguez has been exceptionally professional throughout this process. She negotiated our contract terms, requested specific vintages for the wine service, and even arranged for your favorite dessert, Mr. Rodriguez. The chocolate bourbon torte? That was Sarah's specification." Dad looked at the untouched dessert plates waiting on the service table. His favorite. The one his children were supposed to know about. Marcus finally set down the microphone. The thunk echoed through the sound system. "You've been lying to us," Mom said, but her voice lacked conviction. "Pretending to struggle when you're secretly wealthy." "I haven't been pretending anything," I said. "I've been living my life. You assumed struggle because I don't broadcast success the way you define it. I drive a paid-off car because I prefer zero debt. I live in a one-bedroom apartment because it's in a building I own and the unit was vacant. I work at the cafe because I enjoy the community space I created." Amanda stood up from her seat. "If this is true, if you actually have money, why did you let us think you were failing?" The question hung in the air, genuine and confused. "I didn't let you think anything," I said quietly. "I told you about my first property purchase. Dad said it was a mistake, that I'd overpaid for a slum building. I told you about my renovation plans. Mom said I was playing contractor instead of getting a real job. I invited you to the cafe's grand opening. None of you came. You told me it was embarrassing, that I should have aimed for something more respectable." I could see the memories filtering across their faces. The conversations they'd forgotten, the achievements they'd dismissed, the invitations they'd declined. Every success I shared with you was minimized or mocked, I continued. So I stopped sharing. I didn't stop succeeding. I just stopped expecting you to notice. Jennifer's tablet chimed softly. She glanced at it, then looked at me with a question in her eyes. The photographer is asking about family portraits, she said carefully. Should we proceed with the scheduled session after dinner? Dad opened his mouth, closed it again. The commanding patriarch who always had an answer suddenly had none. Actually, I said, turning to Jennifer, let's modify the schedule. Cancel the family portraits. Instead, let's do individual photos with guests who want them. Open format. No required participation. Understood, Jennifer said, making notes on her tablet. Wait, Marcus said. Sarah, we need to talk about this. You can't just. Can't just what? I asked, keeping my voice level. Pay for Dad's birthday party? I already did. Attend an event where I'm explicitly told I'm not successful enough to speak? I'm reconsidering. Make my own decisions about my time and money? That's been happening for 7 years. You're just now noticing. Amanda moved toward me, her heels clicking on the hardwood floor. We didn't know. If we'd known you were actually successful. Then what? I interrupted. You would have treated me with basic respect? Included me in family events? Acknowledged my existence beyond mockery? The fact that you only value me when you think I have money is exactly the problem. I looked at Dad, standing in his custom tuxedo at his catered birthday party in a venue he couldn't afford, celebrating achievements he'd dismissed in his own daughter while praising lesser accomplishments in his other children. I wanted to give you a good 60th birthday, I said. Not because you've earned it. Not because you've supported me. But because I thought maybe, stupidly, that if I did this one generous thing, you might finally see me as someone worth including. The ballroom had gone completely silent. Even the catering staff had stopped moving. Instead, I continued, you used it as another opportunity to publicly exclude me. To make jokes about my lack of achievement while literally standing in a room I paid for, eating food I selected, drinking wine I chose, surrounded by flowers I approved. Jennifer stepped forward again. Ms. Rodriguez, I need a decision. Should we continue with the evening as planned, or would you like to modify the arrangements? I looked around the room, at the 200 guests who'd witnessed this entire scene, at my family frozen in various states of shock and denial, at the elaborate party I'd spent 3 months planning. Continue as planned, I said finally. Everyone else shouldn't suffer because my family can't recognize success unless it's performed on their terms. Serve dinner. Proceed with the schedule. But remove me from any family-specific elements. No family toast. No family photos. No family acknowledgement. Understood, Jennifer said, her professional mask never slipping. I turned back to my family one last time. Enjoy the party, I said. It's paid for. The food is excellent. The champagne is top shelf. And the chocolate bourbon torte is exactly how you like it, Dad. I made sure of that. I walked toward the exit, my heels clicking in the silence. Sarah, wait, Dad's voice cracked on my name. I stopped but didn't turn around. I thought I was doing the right thing, he said. Pushing you toward something more stable. Something respectable. I didn't realize. You didn't realize because you didn't ask, I said. You assumed. You judged. You dismissed. And you taught Marcus and Amanda to do the same. That's not parenting. That's not love. That's just ego management disguised as concern. I heard Mom's chair scrape against the floor as she stood. We're your family, she said, her voice pleading. We deserve another chance. I finally turned to face them. You've had 7 years of chances, I said. Every property I bought was a chance to ask about my life. Every lease I signed was an opportunity to show interest. Every renovation I completed was a moment to offer support. You chose mockery instead. You chose assumptions instead. You chose exclusion instead. I pulled my phone out, opened my banking app, showed them the screen. I have resources now, I said. Real ones. Meaningful ones. 12 properties. 17 tenants. A business that runs without family help. I built this from nothing while you treated me like nothing. And the cruelest part? I would have shared all of it with you. The success, the struggle, the satisfaction of building something real. But you made it clear I was only welcome in this family if I failed quietly or succeeded exactly how you demanded. Jennifer approached again, her timing impeccable. Ms. Rodriguez, the catering manager, is asking about your dinner preference. You're seated at table 12 currently, but we can arrange a private table if you'd prefer. Thought about staying. About sitting through dinner at a table with distant cousins who barely knew me. About watching my family process this revelation while pretending everything was normal. Actually, Jennifer, I won't be staying for dinner, I said. But please ensure everyone else is served. The meal is paid for. Let them enjoy it. Of course, Jennifer said. And for future events? Should we keep your contact information as primary for family gatherings? The question landed like a bomb in the quiet room. No, I said. Remove me from all family event contacts. If they want to celebrate something, they can plan and fund it themselves. I walked toward the exit, past tables laden with flowers I'd selected, under chandeliers I'd specifically requested, across floors I'd approved. At the door I paused and looked back one final time. Happy birthday, Dad, I said. I hope 60 is everything you wanted it to be. I hope the success you celebrate tonight feels fulfilling. I hope when you look around this room at the family you've built, you feel proud. My voice didn't crack. Didn't waver. Just stated facts. Because I'm done hoping you'll be proud of me. The door closed behind me with a soft final click. 6 months later, I sat in my cafe on a Tuesday morning, reviewing lease applications for Property 13, a historic building I'd just closed on in the warehouse district. The space would become a community arts center with subsidized studios for emerging artists. My phone buzzed. Another text from Marcus. The 47th since the party. I deleted it without reading. The cafe door chimed. Jennifer Morrison walked in, professionally dressed as always, tablet under her arm. Ms. Rodriguez, she said, approaching my corner table. I hope I'm not interrupting. Not at all, I said. Coffee. Please. I made her a courte-du, my specialty, and returned to the table. I wanted to follow up on something, Jennifer said. We received a request from a Rodriguez to plan a family reunion event. They specifically asked if you were available to consult on venue selection and menu planning. I sipped my coffee, tasted the dark chocolate notes I'd worked months to perfect in our house blend. Which Rodriguez? I asked. All of them, Jennifer said. Your father, mother, brother, and sister. They want to plan something special. They mentioned it's an apology event. For you. I looked out the cafe window at the street I'd helped revitalize, at the murals I'd commissioned, at the community I'd built while my family told me I was failing. Tell them I'm unavailable, I said. For consulting. For planning. For apology events. For family reunions. Jennifer nodded, making a note on her tablet. However, I continued, if they'd like to book the event space upstairs, the one I use for community gatherings, they're welcome to rent it at standard rates. $450 for 4 hours. They'll need to provide their own catering, decorations, and coordination. No family discount. No special accommodations. Jennifer's professional mask slipped for just a moment, revealing a small smile. I'll relay that information, she said. After she left, I returned to my lease applications. Property 13 would be spectacular. The bones were solid. The location was perfect. The potential was enormous. Just like Property 1 had been 7 years ago when Dad told me I was making a terrible mistake. My phone buzzed again. This time, Dad's number. I didn't delete it. I answered. Sarah, Dad's voice came through, older somehow than I remembered. Your mother and I would like to meet. To talk. To understand what we missed. You didn't miss anything, I said. You chose not to see it. There's a difference. Then help us see it now, he said. Please. We're trying to understand how we got it so wrong. I watched steam rise from my coffee cup, twisted into shapes before disappearing. I'll meet you once, I said finally. One conversation. At the cafe. Public space. Neutral territory. But I'm not interested in reconciliation. I'm interested in closure. I'll take it, Dad said. When? I'll text you a date, I said. And Dad? If you're late, if you try to control the conversation, if you make excuses instead of listening, I'm done. Permanently. Understood, he said quietly. I ended the call and returned to my property applications. The account is balanced. The ledger is clear. And for the first time in my adult life, I'm not waiting for my family's permission to succeed. Already have.